Hello, I've been doing a few more bits and bobs today, so I thought I'd make another video, just letting you know what I've been doing. I put a coil on plug kit on this instead of a distributor. Everybody knows why we do that, because the distributors are old in tooth now with various problems at IROs, road trauma, etc, etc. So I want to modernise it, but I thought I've not done a video, and I told Home Developments actually I would do, so apologies to them for taking a while. But yeah, I've got the kit on, so I want to talk a little bit about that, what's worked and stuff, a bit about the process. I'll show you a bit with the some test procedures with Link and stuff as well. I'm on a Link G4, as some know anyway. It's an EK one on an EG, but pretty much same, just got knock control. So I'll talk through that. I've got a bit of an issue, so I've got water in the holes where the coil packs were, which I'll explain a bit more about in a minute, because my bonnet vent basically. I left the car outside last night, so that's that. So apologies for that. So yeah, that's basically what this video is going to be about. Hopefully some of you find it useful, or at least a bit entertaining to watch. I'm going to tidy up the coil pack wiring and stuff as well, because originally I just wanged it on just to get it working and do a bit of troubleshooting if you like. But I want to tidy it up a bit now, change the gauge at wiring and stuff, so I'll go through that process. Then it hopefully will help others. Alright, so thanks a lot. Let's get to it. I don't know if anybody else is considering or has done this conversion, but this is the unit I'm using to basically get rid of the distributor. It's from Home Developments. Happy with it. No issues so far. A few people have had these screws come undone and stuff, so I've obviously block painted that. Basically it's nice because it modernises it, and you can just use standard. These are just off a K20. One works as a the whole type. One works as a crank sensor and one works as a cam sensor, so that works quite nice. What I did at the moment is I actually made another little harness just to my dizzy plug that just went round, because again I wasn't sure at the time how effective it were going to be. So once bitten, twice shy. Also, when you're doing motorsport, sometimes you need a way of quickly diagnosing faults. So I had a sub harness, and if I had any issues with it, I could literally revert back to a distributor, you know, in probably half an hour, change the file in the map, switch it back over, and off you go. So I did that originally because I didn't know about how reliable this was going to be. So far so good. It's been on for about 18 months now, no issues, probably done 1500 miles or so. So I'm really pleased with it. So shout out to Home Developments for that. Great bit of kit. If you're thinking about it and you're not sure, I'd recommend it. It does seem to work. I've had absolutely no issues with accuracy, trigger errors, nothing. It's literally just gone on. The offset you have to set up once you've set your trigger offset up, so actually it's, you know, you're using timing gun, so it's firing relative to where the crankshaft is, i.e. like setting your base timing, you're away. I ended up about 280 degrees, I think my offset was. They can all be different, so you've got to play around a bit and be patient with that while you sort it, but great bit of kit, so well done to them for another, you know, really high quality unit that just works. So as per usual, I have a bonnet vent on this, which as you can see was handy for turbo, because did some basic sort of aero CFD looking, if you like, and that's the low pressure area there, so it extracted a lot of heat out from the engine compartment, which you needed when you were turbo. Don't need it now, but everybody's so used to seeing it, it's kind of goes with car now, so I've just sort of left it. So anyway, that's there. But that lets water through, so if I don't cover it up at night, it does unfortunately get water directly onto there, so then it fills your hole, you know, the holes up where the plug holes are, which is disappointing. So anyway, I did that last night, forgot to put a bag over the top, which I normally do, weatherproof it if you like. Don't usually leave it outside, but I did because I've been using it a bit. So anyway, that's that. So I've dried all these out and basically got an airline down in there and give all that a dry out, so just make some little paper tampons so give it a good blowout with the old airline. So that's all sorted, so that's done. So next thing to do is to get off. I made a sub harness in case I didn't like it. I want to go back to dizzy, which runs around the side, so I've still actually got the original dizzy plug on. So all this now can get tidied up and made a bit neater, so that's the plan basically. So this is the sub harness which I just made up for test purposes really at the time. Tried it, worked alright. So I've actually got some genuine underplugs now, because these are like I don't know what you call them, replicas if you like or whatever, and they're alright, but they're definitely not as good quality as the factory under ones and stuff. So I'm going to change all them. I'll keep them as spares, but I'm going to change all that and just make it all a bit tidier. That's the multi-core cable which was already really good quality flex, which runs round for the ECM. And then I just took a main feed from the fuse box and ran that down, which I've just removed the fuse, so obviously it can't damage anything, and just cut that, because I'll do that a bit tidier. So basically now what I can do is I'm going to get a nice little chair, sit here, and then I can take all the loom tape off that, and then basically go and buy some wire and make a nice job of it. So after 15-20 minutes and a cup of tea, you can get this loom tape off. It's from Mercedes, this stuff. It's bloody awful actually to remove, but anyway, it's done its job. So then you can get in. So then what I've got to do, obviously they have a feed and an earth, which is common, so they just all have a power and a ground, if you like. Then they all have their own trigger wire from ECM, which basically will cause your dwell period, if you like, and then activate the unit itself. So there's a built-in, obviously, igniter in coil or whatever. So you need to make a note of them, because they're all different. So always make a note, because you'll forget after another cup of tea. So then I know which wires do what, which come from the ECM, and then the rest is power and grounds. So my eyes are going these days, so I can't actually see, and I can't be asked to look a diagram up, but I think that's pin 1 from memory, and then that's 2, that's 3, I can't remember, so I'll just put pin closest to clip, just so I know. So yeah, so next thing is to cut all that out, and then I can get the other plugs on, so that'll be sound. So obviously that's that removed now, so I've got, that's the bit that basically goes up to ECU to activate each coil in the right firing sequence. And we made reference to that to his book, which is cool. So I've got these off, so you can see I used really heavy gauge wiring at the time for the power and the grounds basically. After doing a bit more research and actually looking at Honda's wiring, it's like speaker wiring, so I didn't need to use wiring that was obviously that diameter. So there's conflicting information, as you always find on internet. Some people saying you need this many amps, that many amps, blah 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 blah. But you don't need much at all actually, to be fair. So I'm going to just downsize slightly. Still going to keep a safety factor of 2 in the wiring, but just going to downsize it a bit, because this cable will take about 30 amps, so don't need anything that high. So we'll drop that down a bit, and then that'll make it all a bit more compact and a bit more flexible as well, because it's quite stiff, this, because it's heavy gauge cable. So that's what I'm going to do. And then, like I say, I've got some standard Honda plugs, which I'm going to basically do a nice job of soldering heat shrinking into there. That'll make it all a bit nicer. I know the loom lamps I need now and stuff. Eventually the harness is coming off. I'm going to change the full engine harness eventually, and put a different one on. I've got a Chinese one to try from Wuhan, and Mike Andrews used one of them on his car, and it seems pretty good. Other than a couple of pins, it's had no issues so far, and it took all wiring a little bit, and that loom's 30 years old in there, so I ain't got time to make my own one, so that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to tidy this bit up. I need to just nip out now to Alfred's, because I want some more wire, so I'm just going to nip and get a bit of wire, some connectors, and I'll be back on it. So strip back the factory sort of insulation, if you like, and sheathing. I'm going to loom tape it again. I just think it looks a bit neat to like. So anyway, so you can see the difference in the gauge of the cable. What I was running to Honda, the signal wire is about right, but it's twice at least the diameter. Try and get to focus. So you can clearly see the difference between the two. So it did not need to be that large. Obviously it's always better to go big than small, but if you imagine if you didn't have that attitude and used the biggest cabling everywhere, while it's great because it's got current carrying capacity and helps the wires get older, you'd end up adding, probably 20-30 kilos to everything, and it certainly cost a fortune. Imagine doing it on a boat, going back to pre-cambless days when cars were 120 kilograms heavier. So don't really want to be doing that, and it's not as flexible. So you're trying to get it all down neatly under that cover, which I've had some issues doing. So anyway, there we go. So next job then, get that bit of wire and start putting some connectors on and stuff. So we're all set up. Always make sure if you're soldering, sorry for telling you how to suck eggs, but make sure you've got a safe place to do it and you're careful. I'd recommend using like a chopping board or a steel board or something. Steel tends to absorb the heat more and ends up burning it, so I'm going to use this nice chopping board. Whilst going to kill me later on, but I will clean it before it goes back in. So always make sure you obviously put your heat shrink quite far back. Heat will conduct up your wire no matter how quick you are, so that'll shrink up there, so move it quite well back. So soldering then, it's a bit subjective this. Obviously I were bus and coach and lorry mechanic for a while, worked at a couple of dealerships, and they always argue, Volvo, MAN where I worked at Vico, They all want you to do different things. Some say book connect, some say you should solder, etc., etc. And we'll talk about it another time. I'm going to solder it. As long as your soldering is good quality, you'll have no issues. Now, I'm going to try and show you, but obviously it's a bit difficult when I'm trying to hold this and I ain't got a tripod with me or anything. So what I've got to do is twist them together. So I'll try and get this set up so you can see. You don't just want to touch them together like that and then solder them. Likewise, you don't really want to twist them like that and solder them. You need to spiral them around each other. So I'll try and show you that just on one of these so I don't bore you, and then you've seen how that should really be done. So basically what we kind of need to do is need to get these, try and get it in there, and then twist them around each other. So what you need to do, don't just twist them like that, put them over each other, so you need enough length. You wrap them over and around each other, so you end up with a nice tight braid almost, like that, without any strands sticking out. So if you don't do it right the first time, have another go. Well, that's what you want. If you've got a solder buddy or something, that's better. I haven't, so I'm sending it. But that's how you want it. Oops. And then obviously the solder takes better, and you don't end up with any pieces sticking out. It looks factory. So get it nice and tight. And again, if you need to do it again, then obviously do it again. But that's basically what you want to do. Do it that way. Alright. Then obviously, as long as your soldering iron's nice and hot, make sure it's clean. So I've cleaned it in there first. Then obviously bring your heat underneath. And when it's ready, your wire will just suck the solder in. Depends how good your soldering iron is. There we go, start to take it now, so need loads. Pass it across. That's it. So it's nice and smooth. Done. Let's knock that off for a minute. Then you end up with a nice joint. So when you've done that, I'll just make sure there's nothing sharp on there before you slide your heat shrink up. Sometimes rotating your heat because it does it. Slide it over the top and then heat shrink it, and that'll see your rate, and then repeat on the other ones basically. Another thing worth just noticing as well, this actually works, I sometimes borrow it, it's the Eroda one that comes in like a kit, but I've got a gas cat. I think these gas cats are better for automotive stuff, finer tip, good wattage. They claim this one's 70 watt, but I don't think it is. Something doesn't work like it, it's a bit delayed, and the nib's too big I think what they give you with it. So anyway, I think the gas cat one that I use, I've had that for ages, works better. I've had snap-on ones and all sorts, but the gas cat just keeps going and going and going, so I prefer that. So yeah, just a thought on soldering irons. Obviously you can get a mains one, but I like the portability of this one. So that's all I needed was the supply, if you like, which comes from a fuse box. So I've just done it with some of that nice over braid. Do them slightly different length each one, which then means it'll stage up and keep all that neat, just like we did with the signal wires, which we'll run across. Okay, so work this way across now. It's the last pin on each one, basically, or the outer pin, pin 3 I think it is. Correct me if I'm wrong, it's either 1 or 3, it's not the middle one, so they all need to go to there now, so that's the next thing I'm going to get on with. And same again, heat shrink, solder, so that's nice and tidy. So obviously once we've done that, so we've got obviously the positives and the negatives sorted out, we've got the signal wires sorted out. So done some overbraid for the positives, as we said, so I can tidy all them up now with loom tape, so they're nicely routed into there. The signal wires are coming down there, and they're neatly in, and then now rather than 2 I've just got 1 earth now, and then obviously connected in parallel to the earth, so that's like almost like a buzz bar system, a bit like where you get on glow plugs and stuff. So then that'll all sit more, much nicely, well, much more nicely, apologies, into there than what the other one did, and it's much less bulky. So and obviously I've spent a bit more time, so everything's a bit nicer. The plugs I'm happy with because they're OE, so there we go. I've run it up, so it fired up straight away, so that's sound. Pop my fuse back in, obviously, up there for that positive feed. So yeah, that's a decent job done. Just tidy that up, get that cover back on. Pretty happy. We've done all that. I've still got to heat shrink the wire and stuff, but I'm well happy how that's. I've changed all the lengths and everything, so that runs a lot nicer, a lot neater now to there. So It's going to be nice that. But yeah, once you've done all that, obviously you'll want to know if they're working. So what you can do with the link and pretty much any other piece of software or whatever package you use these days that's standalone, you can do a coil test, which is pretty cool. So I'm going to go through that process. So I've got the link on at the moment. Obviously we can do an ignition test, so I'll show you how that works and then we'll run a test. Okay. Whatever coil you want to test, we're just doing number 1 at the moment here. You want to put a spark plug in, obviously earth out the spark plug. You know, so obviously it can operate, and then what you basically need to go is you go into ECU settings. So you've got ECU settings at the side in there, and obviously you've got ignition setup, and then you've got ignition test. So when you go into there, it'll bring up this box if you like here, which we're going to use. So you can go into ignition 1, click to on, and obviously as you can see, camera's actually struggling to pick it up. You can just make it out there, look. So there we go. So that's actually firing at the moment. So there you go. And then likewise, you can go through obviously your other ones. And just turn that off. So once you've done that, go to the off, and then I'll stop it. And you could repeat obviously for the remaining you know, coil packs if you like. So that's what you can do, and that's probably good advice to make sure, even though you've checked your wiring and all that sort of thing, make sure you've got obviously number 1 firing when it should be 2, 3, 4. You know, the last thing you want is that to be wrong, particularly when you're setting up the trigger offset. So when you're setting the offset up again with that, and you're looking with your timing light down obviously onto the marks down there, you will, if you've got the offset wrong, get random backfiring because you'll be firing on the wrong part of the 4-stroke cycle. So that would basically give you similar symptoms as if you got. So yeah, hope that's useful. Again, another thing you can do, you can go into ignition main again in ECU settings, ignition main, and then obviously that'll show you like obviously that you're setting it to direct spark, spark edges on falling, dwell mode in milliseconds, ignition delays there, and then your maximum advance. You can set that to what you want, but that's basically the base settings what you'll need. Then obviously you've got to set your offset as well. So alright, so yeah, that's the basics of it really. Really happy with it. So yeah. So there you go. So I hope that's helped a few of you who've been thinking about going coil on plug. Obviously you don't have to use Home Development's kit, but I'd recommend it. It does work. It's newer than some of the stuff that's out there now. Saves you having to put stuff in it, cam gears. It's newer than AM's unit if you like, but I'm really happy with it, and they've got good product support. So there you go. So I hope that's helped a couple of you. Showing you a couple of things on Link again. Depending what management system you use, you can do. It's pretty much the same on all of them. You can do that and stuff. But hopefully it showed a couple of you know, I've had I don't know, probably 5 or 6 people asking about that, so it's showing a couple of you what to do in basic form. You can always ask if you need a bit more information. There's also quite a lot of information on forums and stuff still, Link G4 and etc. But if you need anything, just ask. You do get good diagrams with them, and it's, you know, if you've done a bit of sort of DIY in your car before, it's not hard. But I've tried to show you a bit of basics with soldering. Hopefully it's not patronised anybody, but some people aren't sure and don't want to ask. So the idea is that that'll make people feel a bit more confident with it and stuff. So it's a good learning curve. You know, it's better to have a go. Don't just rely on people all the time. It costs you a fortune, and sometimes it's not done right anyway. So my advice would be get the spanners out, enjoy it. That's what it's about. That's what the hobby's for, and just have a go. You know, as long as you do things step by step, take your time. Be careful. Obviously, when you're powering things up and down, don't short anything. You'll be fine. You'll be fine. And obviously, when you're doing ignition test with coil packs, don't put your fingers on it. All right. So thanks a lot. Catch you on next one.